This is Michelle Obama. Normally, I would say former First Lady Michelle Obama. I mean, years ago, normally. Okay, not currently. It's just Michelle Obama. And she's an influencer. Okay, she's a fucking influencer. And I'm not gonna show you any clip or anything. I think the picture is enough. It's another interview, right? It's another interview where she drags her fucking husband through the mud. You know, passive aggressively. She's a very passive aggressive uh, female. I think she's I'm finna throw up in my mouth. I think she's a narcissist, right? I think she's a fucking entitled, snobbish narcissist and whatnot. And I specialize in narcissism and shit. I can sense them. I have spider sense for narcissists and fucked up cluster B personalities and shit. Well, if I'm even saying it right, this is Michelle Obama and shit. You know, I haven't liked her a very long time, but these recent interviews, she's just been letting it all hang out. She has no decorum and shit, and she's a snob. Okay, she is a definite weird ass, fucked up snob. Okay, and I think she wanna get a divorce, but she keeps denying it. Okay, she keeps being very coy about wanting to get a divorce when it's written all over her jowly face. She makes me sick. All right, she makes me sick. She remind me of some of the failed marriages in my own fucking family, like the older people and shit that's older than my ass, old enough to be my parents and grandparents. Some of the failed marriages, they just let it all hang over. They didn't hold the line, and they didn't have no guts. They have no ovaries to get out of the shit when they felt a certain way. They just stayed there and let everything get all stagnant and malignant and shit while hiding behind the door, throwing rocks at their husband and shit. And they didn't give a fuck. It's indicative of black culture and why I am who the fuck I am today and shit. I'm gonna tell you young men out there, I don't think that you should have to live a consolation prize lifestyle and shit. This was forced upon me. Okay? Forced upon me and shit. Alright? It doesn't have to be forced upon you. Alright? These fucking women in our community, a supposed community's construct, think that we should take a half-eaten apple and shit on all counts in every fucking category. You have to take what they give you. Alright? You wanting something. Okay? You wanting happiness. You wanting to be complete and shit. You wanting to have some reciprocity and shit. That's a cardinal sin and shit. And you should be destroyed. You should be excoriated continuously and infantilized and shit. Just tossed down the stairs. And we've been indoctrinated to carry a lot of weight for these motherfuckers, for these women. Okay? Yeah, I'm emotional. Yeah, I had to look at this interview, right? A clip of it was enough. But she's sitting up bitching again. She never stops bitching, folks. She never stops bitching, man. She made her shitty ass husband, her sus husband, her operative husband. She made him a pariah and shit. Okay? She didn't hold the line with him. They did all that shit they did it together. She been saying that shit on her stupid ass podcast with her weird looking brother. Like, oh, when we made this decision to become president and shit. I'm like, man, fuck that narrative. Is this really feminism and shit? What the fuck is this? It sounds like some kind of weird ass extremism that's self-destructive and shit. She has been the first lady of the United States of America and shit for 8 fucking years and shit. And she comes out of it looking like somebody went up in her back door. I was gonna put an American flag behind the graphic that has her name. That says Surviving Michelle Obama. But I don't feel like, I was going to put an American flag behind that. But I don't feel like she deserves it. She's not an American and shit. Okay, she don't hold her husband down. Her legal husband that she's married to and had kids with and shit. Beard or no beard. Why is she so fucking angry? I don't see Michelle Obama's jowly face, and I wonder why you can't just fuck off somewhere and get you a cabana boy and shut the fuck up, okay? Just get you like some political intern that's way too happy to be there and do what you groom them and shit. You know, do the shit y'all do behind closed doors. And just why do we have to see you out here? Okay, competing with your suspect husband, your sus husband, who did more harm to the black community than any previous president, including Ronald Reagan and shit, motherfucker. Why do we have to see this? If you really think you got it like that, why you didn't run for president instead of Kamala and shit? Huh? Why didn't you come in and why don't you pick up the phone, call Biden and tell him you run with him and shit instead of Kamala and shit and jump the line? All right? You want to see where you really stand and shit? Why don't you do that instead of bitching and throwing rocks and shit? That's all we do is fight and shit. And I'm not gonna put this on men. Like we hear these dudes on these panels always talking these women capitulating and shit and tone policing themselves and shit, and they don't have no such filter. They don't never hold us down and shit unless you a motherfucking criminal and shit. And I'm not even fucking with Pookie, Ray Ray, and Tyrone and shit. At least minus one Tyrone and shit. I'm not even, I'm not even bitching about that and shit. They get the support they get because the women want to support them and shit. What does Michelle Obama care about besides herself and shit or her fucking children? Alright? And I'm tired. You married this motherfucking guy, sus or not. You signed on to be his political beard, and you are derelict in your duties as of the funeral of Jimmy Carter and the inauguration of Donald Trump and shit. And you couldn't hold your shit, man. You had to show that you was just a line, rank and file, bust down, post wall, BW. Alright? It's about to curse. And I don't try not to curse out of any respect for you or shit. You make me sick. You make me sick, man. You want to run with the shit. You want the baton, and you just ask for the bitch and run for president and see where you stand, motherfucker. Get your ass out there in front of this shit, okay? You threw your support behind Kamala Harris, and you knew she wasn't fit for the job. Any job that she's ever had, she was not fit for it because she got those jobs on her back with her legs pointed at the ceiling and shit. And you know what, everybody else know what and shit. But y'all want to gaslight the public and shit. You want to gaslight the men in this ethnic community and shit. And you don't even want to address us as men. Alright? You don't want to treat your husband like a man. He looks like a fucking man. Right? Looks like a man. He took as many slings and arrows as you took. They just said you were a man. Okay? They said you had a penis and shit. And you think about it and shit, they're really taking a dig at your husband, not you. For perceived proclivities in certain circles and shit, okay? And using you as a metaphor, shit. You didn't even do anything when Joan Rivers started that shit, okay? I mean, she rested piss, okay? You didn't even do anything about that. You didn't address her directly. You didn't tell your husband have one of those attorneys send her a cease and desist letter and shit, or call up some of those your donors, your high rank and file donors, and of a certain faith, and tell them to call her on the phone and shit in the middle of the afternoon on a Sunday and tell her to chill out with that bullshit. Y'all never flexed. Y'all was stepping fetching and shit. It's when I couldn't really get behind your husband and shit. Alright, he always let somebody talk crazy to him and shit. That shit triggers me. Alright? And I can't, as a straight black man in this society, I could never let myself, fully out of my box and shit because it would scare you fuckers. It would be like a phoenix fire burning your ass in the biblical sense. Alright, we have to sit here and look at your jolly face in your parade of post-wall bust downs, high-profile bust downs with canyons full of cash and shit in their pocketbooks and no happiness in sight, no man, okay, no beard, no nothing. Why can't you fuck off and leave us alone? Okay, why do we have to see you? I don't want to see you, Michelle. You're old. You were never really appealing. You had a slapjack face and shit, or slapstick, whatever that candy is. This is caramel candy with a square on a stick and shit. That's what her face looks like to me. Just plaster a face on that shit like SpongeBob, and that's Michelle for me. I never thought shit of you, and I was embarrassed when you took the office of First Lady and shit. Let's just call it that now. Everything's a partnership, right? But you ain't no fucking partners. They don't hold you down. They say for better or worse. There ain't no fuck better or worse. It's all worse with these sisters. Why would somebody want to marry your fucking ass? Anybody that look like you or think like you, when they know they don't got nobody to hold them down. There's no more better or worse and shit. It's just making a bad faith business deal. Everything has to come with several volumes of pre and post nups and shit. And she's still gonna shit on you. You have to get a clause in your pre and post nups where she can't talk about you post marriage. Okay? She can't post about you on social media. Those do exist. Alright? Those exist. But more than often than not, over 60% of women of color are going to buck the system and still do it anyway, even with paperwork on their ass. And they're going to do this because they know it's going to cost you even more money just suing their ass. Right? I'm tired of looking at Michelle Obama's sloppy ass. Okay? You're old. You're old. You got a turkey neck. You got a fat head. You got hanging shit, jolly cheeks and shit. It just makes me sick. You remind me of somebody that was married to my father and shit. May she rest in peace if she ain't. May she hurry up and a black carriage should arrive in wherever the fuck she at and ferry her to the underworld. Post haste. And that bitch should blow up like a nuke as soon as it crossed into the underworld and shit. I'm sorry I had to go off, off my topic for a moment. I'm tired of Michelle Obama. I'm tired of looking at her. I'm tired of hearing her talk about shit. There's nothing interesting about her. She's the run-of-the-mill, post-wall, bust-down, angry, misandrous, black, pseudo-feminist, okay? It's not about any kind of feminism whatsoever, black women representation. It's about her own masculine ego, all right? And she can't stand behind her effeminate husband and hold the line and shit, even for 2 events and shit. Maybe they should get a fucking divorce. It'd be a first. She's one of the first black-looking first ladies and shit. And she can be the first, first lady partner to get a divorce. And she give him a fucking divorce. Free him. He don't need you. Like, he don't fucking need you. Y'all have kids. They grown up. I don't think you gave a shit about your motherfucking kids. You do this kind of shit in public. You have not set no good example, and you're a goddamn role model. So what are you teaching other black women that's looking at this bullshit? When you hear the other bitches that talk about, I don't care about them. I will give time to. Because you were the first lady. And what did you do during the first year or so? You planted a stupid ass garden in front of there. Did any other first lady do that shit? Maybe Lady Bird had a rose garden or something I heard about. Did he plant watermelons and all that kind of shit like you did? Oh man. You the first lady that made me wish for Hillary Clinton to come back and shit. I used to be mad at that bitch that she tried to hog the game too when Bill was in this, doing his victory dance and shit. This bitch coming up, you ain't doing none of that shit. I don't think you know what you want to do with yourself, or you would have done it. No one's holding you back from doing anything you ever wanted to do in your life. You come from an affluent family. You have wealth. You can hire enough people to raise your children properly and shit. While you try to find yourself and shit, fail miserably, like they're all doing. They use these talking points and shit. These aren't partners. They aren't wives, and they definitely aren't women. Shit. They're ops. Okay. They're your competition and shit. They just happen to have a different plumbing downstairs. And, they do what they do down there out of necessity and shit. Okay? You think this woman enjoys anything? I couldn't even imagine being a cabana boy for this chick. Did you want to see this shit? Now, will she allow you to common decency and courtesy to put a bag over your own head before you hit that shit after injecting a syringe of testosterone into your penis so that you could be with her? Alright, I'm tired of looking at Michelle Obama and shit. Like, I hate raging out and shit, crashing out when I see her jowly face, her thin turkey neck, and those deep lines around her nose. They show you just how old she is. And, that drop, Whoopi Goldberg age lines in her face that, like silly and shit when she's really Mister. Right? Obama needs to just cut the cord, man. Maybe he should call Will Smith and get his lawyer number and shit. And they should just get this done, man. There's always, hey, man, can make some more history and shit. Because ain't no black people listening to either one of these motherfuckers. All right? The jig is up. All right, Michelle? You can get a divorce and pay a young, unfortunate male that needs money to sleep with you and smile for the camera, okay? Well, 30 something, I don't know. They do the weirdest shit when they're crashing out after they hit the wall. And unfortunately, she doesn't have anyone in her corner to teach her about decorum, alright? You want to say fuck you. You want to say fuck you for President Obama. You could tell him for me, fuck you too. Fuck him too. And not in the way he would prefer shit. Alright? So, as is custom and shit, and especially with this, straight up commentary. This is my 2 cents, by the way. I'm gonna leave you at the 3 rules, okay? And maybe you stick around. But they are important and shit, okay? They're important. Look at this goddamn woman. This biological woman, I would assume. Maybe she really does have a penis. Who knows? Look at this partner. She is not a wife. This is not a wife, man. This is not somebody you should build a life with. Right? She achieved the highest cheer in the land next to her husband. And she's not happy. And she's going around in the streets screaming and dragging this man through the streets. Now I can't give a fuck about either one of them and shit. Alright? The only thing I care that they did of any substance is to show us that everything is part of the plan. There really is a fucking matrix and shit. Alright? There ain't no fucking wife. Wives in the black community are a fucking fairy tale. Kings, keep your head on the swivel. Protect your bag. And above all else, do not make fallen women like Michelle Obama the stewards of your family. And do not make fallen women, females, partners, whatever the fuck she is, trans woman. Do not make fallen women the surrogates or mothers, allegedly, of your children, because your children are your future. They are your legacy and shit. Where the fuck are those daughters and shit? What the fuck out of here, shit, man? Excuse my candor. She make me sick, man. Okay, I think I got that point across and shit. I'm gonna fuck out of here. Do not make fallen women the mothers of your children.